I want to do a quick video today just on the Lakers lineup, what changes I think could be made just to improve the lineup and rotations, because one of their biggest problems have been rotations. Somewhat this got fixed by adding Tyson Chandler to the mix, because they didn't have a backup center. I mean, they were using Zubac for a couple games, but the main problem I think that happened with their lineup, as you could see as it is right now, is Brandon Ingram being brought into the lineup with Kuzma. And I'll explain that in a minute. But you can see I got their current starting lineup up there. Lonzo at point guard, then Ingram, then LeBron, Kuzma, and McGee. And if you watch from the beginning of the year, you'll notice that what they changed. I mean, Rondo was starting at the beginning of the year with Lonzo coming off. And KCP was actually starting at the beginning of the year. So the beginning of the year roster was Rondo, KCP, Braun, then Ingram was playing, and JaVale McGee. But if you remember, obviously, Rondo had that incident with CP3. Ingram, obviously, for pushing Harden and coming in throwing punches later, got suspended for even longer. So with them two being out, it ended up being Lonzo. And then KCP and Hart kind of had a battle for the position. Hart ended up winning it. So it was, for a minute, it was Lonzo, Hart, Braun, Kuzma, and McGee. But then, obviously, Rondo came back, and he ended up staying on the bench. They kept Lonzo in. And then when Ingram came back, what ended up happening was, I guess Luke Walton didn't want to sit Kuzma because he's been playing well. But at the same time, Ingram had feelings like he didn't want to come off the bench. So, I mean, his decision was just made for whatever reason. I'm not going to speculate on it too much. But Hart got sent back, and then Ingram was brought into the starting lineup. And you could say he's coming in for a shooting guard here, which I'll mention later as being issue, one of the issues I think that they have. But at the same time, he's not actually playing. He's playing some shooting guard, really. Guard and forward, but a lot of times what they end up doing is obviously Braun runs the show at point. Lonzo kind of plays off ball a little bit, and then Ingram can basically play his basic small forward position. But obviously they swap these guards out. I mean, sometimes Lonzo bring the ball up. I even saw Ingram bringing the ball up a couple of times. I think I've seen pretty much every single guard. This group of people on this side, every one of these dudes have brought the ball up and have initiated the offense in one way or another. And I think that's kind of the main issue here. They didn't want to bring Kuzma out. I think even at the beginning of the year when they had Kuzma out and Ingram in, and it kind of just like slid down this way, I think that that worked a little bit better because you at least had a forward coming off. Because if you see right here, this big gap right here, because these players are bench players. I mean, Svi doesn't get that much time. Williams, after the first couple of games, hasn't gotten that much time. After they got Chandler, he basically has been out. I don't think Mo Wagner has seen a minute all year. And Zubac just saw a minute against Portland, and against Toronto in a blowout, he got some minutes. But earlier in the year, now later, these players have been kicked back. I mean, if you see the number of players up here, I mean, they can't really add, even all of these players on the board right here, as you can see right now, can't play in the game because there's too many people in the lineup. So someone has to be totally inactive for that game, not even suiting up. And then someone else is basically going to get no playing time. You can't play that many players. So you see it's lopsided. All of these players are basically guards because LeBron, like I said, plays point guard most of the time. Lonzo is obviously a point guard. Rondo is a point guard. Stevenson comes in at point guard and shooting guard. KCP is obviously a shooting guard. And then since you kicked Hart out of the starting lineup, is a shooting guard. So now you're stacked. 2 shooting guards on the bench. 3 if you consider Stevenson. And then you got a backup point guard that you got to get in the game. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people that you're trying to alternate at this guard position. That's the main issue. Because what you'll see them end up having to do because of this is bring, KCP in the game with, let's say, Rondo and then Hart and Stevenson off the bench. So if they bring these people in the bench, sometimes I saw at one point it was this lineup in the game: Braun, Rondo, Stevenson, Hart, and KCP, and then LeBron was bringing the ball up. So here's what I would do, just very simply to kind of correct this issue. I think Kuzma has won the starting spot. Ingram got suspended. Kuzma's playing. Kuzma's not only shown that he's playing well, he's shown that he could play well with LeBron on the court. He could play well without LeBron on the court. Ingram is kind of some inconsistencies as whether or not he could play well with LeBron. Sometimes he does. Sometimes he plays better without LeBron. But what I would do was keep Kuzma in the starting lineup. He's a power forward anyway. The odd man out here is Ingram. He's a small forward, so he really plays the same position as LeBron. I mean, it's a tough predicament to be in, but if you got LeBron on your team, not too many small forwards want to start over him. So what I would do is bring Ingram here, back up small forward, and I bring Hart here. So you basically got that lineup that you had, I guess, like right after when Rondo was suspended. I mean, personally, what I would even do was try to trade Lonzo Ball. So if we're going to get into my personal opinion, I'd have Lonzo out, and I'd have Rondo here. And then I'd have Hart, LeBron, Kuzma, McGee. Obviously, you're going to have Chandler. I would put him in between these because there's no reason why, if you're not going ultra big and you just want to go a defensive lineup, kind of take some risks on the offensive end. But interior, if you're having problems with your interior D, I mean, he could even come in at power forward. But obviously, he could come in at center, which is his main position. So, the main position on this team for what they want to do, modern NBA style basketball, where you're not really going to go twin tower style with him in there. It's like that. So, I mean, but put him here, obviously, and then you could bring Stevenson up here in between because I think he could come in. He's shown that he could play well with Rondo playing off ball, sometimes with him playing off ball. But his main, if you watch Stevenson throughout the years, if you watched him back in the day with Indiana, if you watched him with Indiana the second time around, you watched him even with Memphis at times or whoever else he was with. The Clippers, he didn't get to do this because of Doc Rivers. And Doc Rivers mentioned this. I mean, you could look up the interview where he talks about Stevenson. He talks about Stevenson wanting to handle the point guard position, but that's not the type of player that they wanted. They didn't want him handling the point guard position and taking the ball up and trying to be like kind of that superstar type player. They wanted him basically there to play defense, and they really wanted him to play small forward because they had JJ Redick. So, I mean, Stevenson's not that guy. Doc Rivers was wrong with that. That's probably why a lot of people got on him about being the president of basketball operations and making moves like that when he kind of, apparently didn't know Stevenson's game. But yeah, Stevenson excels at playing backup point guard role, bringing the ball up, getting other people involved, getting other people that bringing that energy, getting the assist numbers, getting the rebounds, pushing the ball, making plays one-on-one off the dribble, coming up, whatever. So I'd have him here. So you got so much versatility here now. You got so much versatility here because, Ingram could come in for any one of these 5 positions. So you basically have a three-headed monster of versatility coming off the bench here. Ingram could come in for any position. Chandler could come in for the 2 big positions, but mainly center, because that's kind of what you need to protect the rim and get rebounds. And you got Stevenson coming in for any of the guard positions, and really he could play some small forward. I mean, I wouldn't want to see him there too often because you're taking away from his advantages of what he's good at. But he could do that. He could provide that for your team. So, I mean, you kind of got that 3-headed monster coming off the bench now, and you got smooth rotations. As far as what you want to do, I mean, Stevenson's tall. If you want to go big, boom, 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 boom. Now look at the height you got on the floor right here. The height, the size, the ability to switch off. I mean, JaVale McGee could play some defense if you want to go complete, switching everything and just total small ball. Then you go boom, move him here. And then, you could bring KCP in to play the 2. You could bring, Rondo back in, but then you can't switch to 1 and 5 that well. But, you could do, there's some things you could do here. Obviously go here. You could shake up the lineup at this point and then not have to worry about fight with people's minutes. That's why I say Lonzo Ball. If you trade him or something like that, it wouldn't even bother me too much just because, the extra person that you're trying to get 20, 30 minutes a game, 35 minutes a game. When you got so many people that can get that type of minutes, it really, really screws up your rotations. And we're seeing that in the games. I mean, it's just the rotations. I mean, you'll see good chemistry out there with certain guys and at certain times. You'll even see good defense with certain guys at certain times. But I mean, when you see one guy like Lance Stevenson last game got 4 minutes, and their 2 wins prior to the other guys coming back, Stevenson against the Suns, which weren't very, I mean, Suns are going to be kind of a bottom team in the league, but still he put up, I think, 23, 8 and 8 against them, if I'm correct. So pretty good numbers there. And then obviously we saw him come in off the bench in the fourth, but LeBron had the game down 8 against Denver, what he did there. So, I mean, if you got a player like that and then comes back and gets 4 minutes in a game, and then he went 2 games, and actually he went 3, I think he's on a streak of 3 or 4 games in a row now where he hasn't played a minute in the fourth quarter at all. And then when you saw that type of success with him getting 25 minutes a game, you can't have him only playing 4 then after that. I mean, that's the type of rotational issues you run into. So this is the type of lineup I would be utilizing here. There. And then, like I said, you could throw any of these players. I mean, like I said, there's even a lineup right there that you could use. Like I said, Ingram could come in for anybody. You could go here again, with Tyson Chandler in. You bring Kuzma out of the game. Bump down, bump up. I mean, KCP. It's depending on foul trouble situation. I mean, what do you want to do? You want to go small? You want to go big? I mean, like here, you want to go big. Again, like I mentioned earlier, you can go here, and you're looking at 6'5", long, 6'9", 6'8". Kuzma's listed, I think, at 6'9", but he looks a good 6'10", 6'11". And then you got 7 foot, over 7 foot right there. You can go that type of lineup for defense. If Kuzma's struggling on defense, just bump LeBron down, depending on who you're playing. Then you could go here. And I think this would be one of their better defensive lineups, maybe. I mean, you could do a lot, and you could keep your rotations clean. I mean, what I'd be doing here is I'd be running, like I said, this is your starting lineup. It's here. Like that. Like I mentioned. It's where you're at. And what I would do is I'd wait, just fill the game out. Fill the game out. And then you're going to bring Stevenson in for one of these 2 dudes. And like I said, we're going to bring Ingram in for one of these, just depending on what you're seeing in the game. Is LeBron struggling early to get his shot going? On defense, is Kuzma giving up some on defense? I mean, is Hart, does Rondo need to come out? Is someone in foul trouble? Just depending on what the issue is, you could either bring like Stevenson in for either one of these 2 guys. If Hart's cooking that game, Rondo needs to come to the bench for a second. You could bring him in for here. A couple minutes later or a couple minutes before, you could bring, say, you could bring Boom in for LeBron. Get LeBron a little rest during the middle. They're in the middle and then come back here. With it here. Get Kuzma his little rest. Obviously bring JaVale out to get his little rest. And then you can run this for a minute. Then you could bump back even. Or you could, like I said, boom, come here. And you're back here again. Get Kuzma back in the game. Or you could play Ingram, Kuzma in the game at the same time. Get LeBron out. You could just rotate that all day. And it's going to be clean rotations. Everybody's going to be getting their minutes. And obviously Lonzo could fit in there if that's going to be necessary, if that's going to be the structure they're going to have for the rest of the year. But not necessarily what I would want on a team, just because, like, even with, like I said, with Lonzo and Rondo, even if we're like this, even if Ingram's out, just say, and McGee's obviously starting. Even if we're in this situation, we still got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So even if Ingram just swings in between these two, and you let these guys all swing out for the 1 and 2 position, you're still going to have a huge issue here because you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys trying to run the point because of LeBron running the point all the time. That's still an issue for me. So I mean, if you can get, I mean, even if you could bundle these two dudes in a trade, that would be kind of nice. If you say put these guys up, and then we're going to go out and we're going to get a starting shooting guard, bump Hart to the bench. You got him, you got Rondo, and you got Stevenson coming at backup point, him coming back at shooting guard, him coming in between these forwards, and then say you get, I mean, whoever here, a Jimmy Butler or somebody. I mean, that's just, I mean, I don't think that's going to be realistic, but let's just say that then your squad's looking like a championship team, like right away. Then you're looking really legit at that point. Especially if you can get a 2 guard that could also swing down and play that small forward position and get some versatility and like a swing man, a wing, then you're talking. But yeah, that's basically it. I probably ran over the time that I actually want to even talk about this, but I just want to give people an idea of what I think about the lineups and, you know, what I think that could be done to help alleviate that. And I think the main issue is basically just having Ingram in the startup. If I could make the video 5 seconds long, it's basically just take Ingram out. Take Ingram out, and that'll basically wash all your issues besides the Lonzo issue. But if you bench Lonzo, which is not going to happen, I'll tell you actually what he's doing right now is what Luke Walton's doing, because obviously he has the same issue with Lonzo that he has with Ingram even being at the start, because he just doesn't want to just bench him. He doesn't want to bench Ingram even though he could still get 35 to 40 minutes a game coming off the bench. He just doesn't want to do that. Same thing with Lonzo. He just doesn't want to outright bench him because they wasted a 2nd overall pick on him. So, I mean, what he's doing now is he's playing Lonzo at the beginning of the game and just letting Lonzo's beginning of the game dictate the rest. And he's basically keeping this starting core. Obviously, Ingram, he's keeping these guys in until almost the end of the beginning of the second. I mean, last couple of games, it might have been a 2-minute mark, 3-minute mark before he had wide substitutions. Sometimes down under a minute before, you know, I think Stevenson didn't come in until like really late the last game against the Timberwolves. So, and then before that, I think Stevenson came in, but then Rondo didn't come in until late. So he's basically swinging it like that and just letting Lonzo play the beginning. And if it's like the Mavs game, where Rondo came in for a little bit, but then Lonzo came in back in at the end, or just basically for the rest. And, you know, against the Timberwolves and Portland in the last couple of games, Rondo's been coming in. Rondo's kind of like been finishing out. It's basically been Lonzo for basically most of the first, and then Rondo for most of the fourth to close the game out. And that's basically how he's kind of solved this issue. Well, solved, I guess, with quotations, because, I mean, it's not really solved. That's how he's trying to kind of alleviate the pain from having all these guards in the lineup like that. And it's not working, as you could tell, because, I mean, they beat the Timberwolves, but if it wasn't for the referees at the end of the game, we saw that Tyson Chandler got away with a couple pushes in the back. And we saw Derrick Rose. I wouldn't say he got fouled on the shot. There was a little bit of contact to his arm, but that's after he released the ball. But still, it could have been called. I mean, we've seen less called before. So, I mean, if it wasn't for that little bit of help from the rest, I think they could have lost that game. And you saw the Mavericks game. Obviously, they were up big that game, but a couple more. If it wasn't for the Wesley Matthews foul on LeBron at the end, we could have saw a loss there. So, I mean, we could have saw losses in at least their last few wins. We could have seen losses based on what I feel was this rotational issue. I mean, Stevenson not playing the fourth of some of those games was an issue as well, just to give you the extra spark. But, I mean, that's basically pretty much it, all I wanted to talk about. So, thanks.